Hello, everyone. It's an honor to be here at Design Indaba. It's one of those conferences that, as a designer, you probably want to come once in your lifetime, and we're very happy to be here for the first time and as a speaker. Today, I want to talk a little bit about designing new ways to design. First of all, I want to start by introducing myself. As she mentioned, my name is Masa, and I'm a creative director at a company called Party. We don't call ourselves an agency, although we've been mentioned as digital agencies in a lot of places. We consider ourselves to be a creative lab because I believe that what we do is experimenting with ways to kind of combine storytelling and technologies. That's what we kind of pride ourselves in doing. And in the past 2 years, that's how long we've been around. We've done things like TV shows, interactive TV shows. We've done music videos. We've done product design. We've done 3D printing projects. We've done, iPhone apps. We've done a bike that runs on human poop. I'm not going to talk any deeper about that today. And instead, I want to talk about this one philosophy that we carry in our company. It's something that I'm really hooked on right now. And it's about by making things differently, you'll get something different. And when you read it, it's kind of a no-brainer. It's like, no doubt, right? Obviously, you'll get something different because you're making it different. But I think this is one thing that we tend to kind of forget these days because of these technologies that's readily available around us. When we want to shoot a film, oh, there's a 5D on my bed that's lying around, and hey, I have a Final Cut and After Effects, on my computer. And I could just whip up a video, I can make it, add my friend's track to it, and there's a music video, and I could release it on YouTube, and there you go. But I think, when you take a step back and look at that process, you suddenly start to realize that, well, if I'm using the same tools as everybody else, and if I'm, creating it in the same way as everybody else, wouldn't that make my work look a little bit similar to all the other music videos around the world? And I think there's a truth there. And when you look at things like pottery, it's an easier analogy, I think. When you're creating something in pottery and you're using a pottery wheel versus you molding the clay with just your hands, the vase or whatever you're making, it's definitely going to look different, right? So I think this principle applies to all sorts of other kind of mediums as well, even in graphic design or in film, or the interactive thingies that we create. This is kind of like the philosophy that I'm really hooked in right now and start to kind of become our company's vision as well. And I think it's a really relevant term in the same reason that we're kind of forgetting about this, because there is technologies all around us. We could use that to create the tools or create the new ways of making things. And I think that's where interesting things happen. Again, for example, we can create our own tools. This is just, I don't know why I put this painting here. It's a, cave painting from Rasco. But, these guys were uber creative. They started painting, cows with their fingers on the cave, probably. This is just my imagination. But then, oh my God, my finger hurts. So they started using sticks, right? They, put tar and blood or whatever they want and started scribbling on the walls like this. And then suddenly they start, maybe one guy starts to feel like, oh, you know what? The lines are a little bit kind of, hard. I want that fluffy thing on top of the cow. That'll make it look more like an animal. Then, perhaps one guy, plucks his hair or maybe just gets some fur and starts making a brush and starts painting on the walls again. So these guys, our ancestors, were creating tools, that they wanted to use to design or achieve the design that they've envisioned in their minds. And I think we could do the same thing. But all the primitive tools, I think, has been explored in the last 100-something years. So instead, can we do this? Can we bring a new kind of evolution to the tools with technologies such as Arduinos? There's Raspberry Pis, there's 3D printers. I think these things, just using it as it is kind of boring. But if we use them to create tools, I think that's very exciting. And also with those tools, I think we could really change the way we work, change the whole creative process in which we develop things like film or even graphics and interactive stuff. Again, we have Skype, we have video chats, and we have Google Docs. You could be anywhere around the world and working on any assignments. And I could be in Tokyo working for assignment in New York with friends in Argentina and Berlin, for example. the whole important thing is about trying to figure out new ways of working. It's all the tools and all the teamwork. You could do a lot of new things with technology. And again, we tend to forget that. And from here on, I just want to show a couple of examples of my own work that I tried to put this kind of into practice, this kind of principle into practice in real. And the first project is a music video for a Japanese band called Sawa, and the title was Hibi no Neiro, which means tone of every day. And what I did here was I made a whole music video just out of webcam using Skype or video chat. And I actually shot 80 of the actual fans of the band from around the world. And I'll explain why and how I did this after I show you the video, so please enjoy.
Please. じゃあ行きますか。
そっと水たまりが髪に映る心は日々の音色抜けた君の音色
Thank you so much. This now it's been dated now, but I made this video around 2008, and so kind of going back to the origin, like why I did this and how I did this. I have to admit that I wasn't really conscious that I was, trying to, create my own tools to film things or doing different things with technology. But when I look back, I think this was the first project that I really started to tap into thinking about, the methods and the devices that I use to create film. And when I got the music from this band, Sour, as in advertising briefs, you get a brief from your client. In music videos, you kind of get the music. So I always try to listen to the track a lot and figure out what the message is and, kind of try to visualize the world of what it's singing about. And this time, the song was kind of about connecting with other people to understand who you are. So, connection was kind of in my head. And normally I just kind of start thinking about concepts immediately, but this case was a little bit different because there were two huge hurdles related to it, the project. And one was that there was zero budget. And yes, I know, never take on zero budget projects. Two was that I started living in New York and the band was in Japan. So there was no way I could physically, have them in a studio and shoot them in person. And if you had enough sanity, you probably should say no to a project like that. But these guys were actually my friends from high school. And this was kind of like their killer track, right? So I really wanted to help them out. And it was actually a good track. So I started to think about the concepts, with these two huge restrictions, in my head. And the more I think, it felt impossible. And one day I was actually Skyping the band members, almost giving up, like saying, "Oh, guys, you know what? You gotta give me at least like, $100 or something. Come on, And no, not just a budget, but like overall, as a concept, it felt almost impossible. But then suddenly I realized, right, that this was actually a way people connect nowadays through video chat. Like I was in New York and I was Skyping these guys in Tokyo. And wait a minute, if I use this device, maybe I could shoot the guys in Japan remotely from New York. And also, if I use a webcam, I don't have to rent cameras. So I could probably make this cheap, or maybe for the $0 budget that I have. And that really was an eye-opener to me. Like, okay, and also the device itself, or the method that I'm using to film, also kind of relates back to the concept of the music as well. It was all about connection, so it answers that as well. And after that, it was really like a linear process. If the guys were just performing in front of the webcam, it would be, something like the Asian girls, dancing in front of the webcam. So we didn't want that. So can I visually reconstruct that connection, like connecting people that can never be together, through this video. So I thought about using the multi-screen like this, and started thinking of different ideas. And then from there, I thought like, well, you know what? I got away without renting any cameras, right? And no studios, okay. But what about the actors? I probably need a lot of actors to act in this. But again, I don't have the money to really hire any professionals. So, this was before the word crowdsourcing really kind of went around the internet. But I kind of decided to reach out to the world. So I put up a post in the band's website. I put it around my Facebook and a lot of social networking sites in Japan. And I was lucky enough to collect about 80 fans from around the world. This was from like 12 different countries. And it was all like remote. They just sent in my profile pictures and stuff. And I just checked their Facebook and said, okay, you're in, you're out. Yes, there were a few outs. I'm not going to mention too much about it. And then so this came to be. This is just kind of a bit of the process. Normal stuff, like even though I was using like a different thing as a webcam, you still need to write storyboards. You can't get away from that. So on the left, it's a little bit blurry, but I thought about like 50 or 60 different kind of things I could do with the multi-screens. And you could see I circled a few in red. Some were actually used, some were not. Like the equalizer sequence, I didn't decide to use. And then from there, I went in deeper into each of the situations and made kind of the choreographies, like when to raise your hands and how to connect and all that. And then since I'm kind of a perfectionist, I wasn't too satisfied with the choreography because I knew that I needed to give orders and timings to like just amateur people. They're not like professional dancers. So I wanted to make sure that all these motions or like body movements were possible. So I made like a photo storyboard, which is on the bottom right. But then that didn't feel enough to me. So I decided to do what's pretty, common nowadays, but it was about prototyping the whole video. And this happens a lot in coding, and this happens a lot on interactive projects. I haven't done it for film. I know there's like animatics happening for some cases, but this was a little bit more than that. So moving on to another project that I wanted to show you. This was the first kind of music video that I did at Party, at my company. And compared to the sour one, I now kind of understood that, okay, maybe if I use different tools or create different ways of making film or like to shoot, the output becomes something that nobody's seen before. So I took that kind of approach. This was like the first test that I did real consciously. And in this video, this was for another Japanese band called Androp. The title was Bright Siren. And what I did here was I lined up 250 cameras and with strobes and controlled the strobes through a program. So I could create these light pixel animations with real flashing cameras. And so again, I'll explain a little bit about the backgrounds after the video. Thank you. I hope no one got the seizures or anything from the flashing. It's pretty dangerous. So this video, this is just a comp that I made in like 30 minutes to present to the label in the band, and it's amazing how close it came out to be. But for this one, so the title was Bright Siren, so I wanted to do something about lights, and the song was singing about memories. So I wanted to connect these two together, and I soon came to a device called a camera, which is supposedly something to record memories. So, and a camera and a light, so it's obviously I came to a conclusion that maybe I could do something with camera strobes, and that way, the device actually speaks for the music itself, and also, it could kind of visualize the music that it's singing about. And so at first I had this crazy idea, okay, let's line up like thousands of cameras and make this wall and create pixels. And everyone said, I don't know if that's going to work, Masa. You come up with crazy stuff, but this time I don't think it's going to work. So, but then I hate giving up, so I went in and brought like 3 of my friends' 5Ds and put it in the corner of our office and kind of hooked up Arduino and tried to control it, and it worked. And to me, like, okay, if it works for 3, it's going to work for 1,000. And I wasn't thinking about who's going to solder the whole camera. Yeah, it's a long story. I don't want to solder again. And then, so I knew that it's going to work. I did my feasibility check, so I brought it to the label in the band. They were like, oh my God, that's awesome. And the good thing about it was that the band didn't want to reveal themselves too much. So I think the backlit thing was all they really cared about, and I think so it worked out really well. But then the reaction was the same. Can you really pull it off? And then I was like, yeah, sure. We could totally do this. But underneath the waters, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? But then from here, despite all the kind of technical things that we needed to do, which I'll get to later, I had to go through the normal process. Yes, the storyboards. So I did it in like 2 colors. Just the blue one's kind of the live action sequence, and the red one is more the lights that I needed to animate. And then, did simple kind of animation GIF type of stuff to figure out the animations. Okay, what can I do with strobes, the light patterns and everything. And also, since I just love typography, I thought, I'll just make a typeface for it too. It actually comes in use later on, so I was glad that I did this. But, And while I was having fun doing this, so my team kind of comes back to me saying, okay, Masa, I have bad news, and really bad news. What do you want to hear first? And the first thing was, okay, you know what? There's no 1,000 cameras in Japan that you could rent. So forget about that. So I asked, okay, so how many could we possibly, rent and borrow? And I could ask my friends too and stuff. And they said, okay, like 200 maybe. So, and then we asked Canon as well, and they were generous enough to lend us about 50 cameras. So that's why you see a lot of the Canon cameras in the center. But it's not all Canon. Again, they were generous, but 250 is still quite a lot. So I thought, okay, well, let me try the grid and see if it works. And this is actually done in 250. So I was like, okay, no, it's big enough. The band would probably fit within the 250 grid, and it'll look okay. So let's do it. So what's the even bad news? Okay, the cameras, we don't have enough money, so we're only probably going to get all the cameras in the morning of the day of the shoot. So we're never going to be able to test it beforehand. So I'm like, all right, that's a problem. But then again, we wanted to really make this happen. So we tried to figure out a way that we could possibly get it closest to the actual camera stuff. And we created this, which was like a simulator. It's an easy kind of app that we created using Adobe Air. And what it did was, you create an easy kind of Flash Swift file and animate the sequence in just these boxes. But when you import this data, it kind of gives you a little bit more closer look to how it looks like. Now, I mean, all the hardware issues aside, this really helped out in terms of the software side of things, because I needed something that would give me a little bit more better idea of how the whole camera wall will look and how fast the strobes will flicker and how fast it would scroll to really make a proper animation. So we really use this to kind of finesse the storyboards, and also we've changed the animation actually on site as well using this program. And when we felt like some of the flickers were too fast or some of the sequences didn't work, we just went onto Flash and created a new animation and put it in here. And what was useful was that it also fed out like the programmings that actually we used on Open Frameworks to control the camera. So it wasn't just creating like a virtual image, but it actually was useful in terms of controlling the camera. So when it looked okay on the software, we could just use that for real to shoot with. So this was kind of, again, like a realization for us. We totally forgot about, okay, maybe we could create our own tools to, find ways around of making this. And this was the tool that we've created that helped us really bring this idea to life. And this is like a capture of the web. We had a web version where you could type in any message, and this is where the words, the typefaces, came in handy. You could type any message to your friend, and you could customize the video, and you could see your message kind of flashing within the video. You could make your own version that you could share to your friend. And also, on the site, it wasn't just a video, but you saw all the photos that was taken from the cameras as they were flashing, and that was kind of like the timeline that you could see on the bottom. So we like to do these things. They never asked for a website. We're like, oh no, would it be cool? So we just did it, and they loved it. That realization of the kind of making up process becoming an entertainment led us to this thing which is called the Sperm visualizer. Yes, sperms. And it was a campaign for a music video channel called Space Shower TV in Japan. It's kind of like MTV. And they wanted to do this campaign called Music Saves Tomorrow. And it was after the 3/11 kind of earthquake in Japan, and everybody's kind of depressed, and they wanted something to cheer people up. But all the other directors that was assigned to it were doing, documentaries, nice footages. You see the kind of devastated towns and all that, sad. It was nice and emotional, but I wanted to make something that's like more uplifting and crazy and fun. You don't want to just keep on crying over these sad, incidents. And I wanted some hints where I didn't know where to start. It was a completely open brief. So all I had was this tagline saying, music saves tomorrow. And tomorrow to me was about children, like our next generations. And, but then, putting kids and puppies and koalas into ads is pretty, too easy. Like, I don't want to do that. So I thought, well, maybe I could take one step ahead or back, I don't know how to say it, but well, what if it's not kids, but it's the kids of kids, which is sperms? And what if I was imagining this world where the sperms are dancing to music, right? You're like, you love music even before you're born, was kind of the concept. And I made a TV ad, which was this one. All right, so yes, thank you. That was the dancing sperms. Yes, that was the title of the TV commercial. And then on the website, again, they didn't ask for it, but we made it anyways. You could actually make the sperms dance to any music you like. So here, I've searched for Lady Gaga, so you can make the sperms dance to Born This Way, which is very interesting. And of course, you could share that with your friends. So you could have like, okay, hey, look at my sperms dancing to Lady Gaga. And, but you're probably questioning, okay, what does this even have to do with like the making of process? And so the fun actually starts here. So we realized that all the team were male on this project. And so what we did is we collected all the sperms of all the staffs and brought it to a biolab, and we scanned it, we motion captured it, we took the texture and everything to create that TV commercial and the website that you just seen. And don't ask how I collected the sperms, but here is a making of video.
おー、キュッてこうなること。
見たら書いてあるんですけどね、それで動いてる。なるほど。
上等句が
You see, this one was kind of purposefully made so that the making becomes entertainment. But to my point before, if it's done in an interesting way, the process itself could become interesting, as equal to like the actual video or the content or TV commercial, whatever you're making. And this was quite successful. And then so this is kind of the process that we're really exploring right now at our company. Trying to figure out, okay, what's a different way to produce it? We could have just done this in animation, like in CG, and perhaps we could have gotten it almost similar or even like equivalent to what we have now. But I think because of this process that we went through, it created more story around the content itself, and it really helped spread the word about this campaign. So that was kind of the learning from that. Last project that I wanted to share with you was a recent project that we did called Omote 3D. It was a 3D photo booth that we've created. So all the ones before were like film heavy because I do a lot of film work, but this is kind of a initiative or like a original project that we did as a company. And what we did was we created a 3D photo booth, like a pop-up store, where you could get your full body scanned with the 3D scanner and get your 3D figurine instead of a portrait picture. So we wanted to find ways to innovate like the family portraits, I guess, like new ways to keep your memorabilia of your families. And this is kind of how it was done. The interesting thing is that not just in terms of the production process, but it's also kind of changed the way we look at our business models too. So instead of waiting for the clients to kind of come to us, even for those music videos that you've seen, the label always came to us. But here we actually made this by ourselves. We invested in it as a company ourselves. We're using our own money, and we created this as a prototype. And then this show was really successful. We had it on for like 2 months, and there was about 300, 400 people coming and getting it scanned. And now we're actually reaching out to clients who wants to use this technology, in their advertising or brand communications. And this way, we own the kind of rights and the ideas. So we have more freedom and more control over the output, and it feels like a more healthier way to kind of interact with clients. You're almost like the client or the partner from the beginning. So I think this is becoming more and more interesting, and we want to do things down this line more. And kind of coming back to the first point, by making things differently, you'll get something different. I hope, after seeing some of the things that I've shown you today, this means a little bit different than what the words says on the slide. Just with the technologies that we have, we could totally create our own tools, own way of working, and make things magical. So, thank you.